Welcome to the Forge. Today we're going to be working to improve the hammer eye drift that we made earlier. I'll put a card up here to link back to that video in case you haven't seen it. Now, having used this, there's definitely some things I want to improve about it. We're going to start with improving this taper. I think this taper could be more even and a little sharper down at the point. Next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take advantage of the meatiness of this handle to draw out some extra length. And then hopefully, third, that'll give us plenty of extra material that we can save. Being able to harvest this material is going to come in handy later. While you guys watch me grind on this, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about what inspired me to make this video. This is one of those things that you just need to constantly work on. As a blacksmith or as a maker in any space, improving your tooling will improve you. It'll make you more efficient in how you work. It'll improve the quality of the products that you produce or the items that you craft. And it's something that you should always be paying attention to. Now, sometimes you just need to make a tool to get the job done. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you find that a tool can be improved, there's something you wish it had, take note of that and come back and work on it. As you improve tools, you're going to improve the quality of the things you produce. Now that we're finished up with the grinder, at least for the taper, let's go ahead and take a look at this. You can see that the hammer eye drift now has a much more even taper across its entire length. This means that it's not going to only be good for drifting larger hammers like the rounding hammer that I made, but also smaller hammers if I wanted to make a small claw hammer or anything that has a smaller eye hole, and it'll still give us the same result. Now we need to address this handle space, draw it out, and try to recover some of this material. And of course, to do that, we're going to need to heat it up. So I'm going to throw this in the forge to heat up, and it's going to be in there for a while. With S7 tool steel, you really need to let it soak to make sure that the entire piece is heated through, not just the casing. Now, I can't emphasize enough that S7 tool steel is tough. I mean, it's really shock resistant. So working under the power hammer is realistically the only way I can work with this material by myself. If I didn't have a power hammer, I would definitely need somebody to be striking for me, because it would take far too long to do this by myself with just a heavy hand hammer. Another thing that's very important is to only work this tool steel when it's hot. I mean, once it gets down to a medium temperature, you need to be getting it back in the fire. Alright, sorry to stop the video so abruptly, but we need to have a little impromptu public service announcement. You've got to wear your personal protective equipment, your PPE. Safety gear is critical in a shop. I just had that tool steel flash up on me really bad under the power hammer. That basically means it just spat burning oil and scale all over me. You can see it's speckled all over my arms and hands. Now luckily I wasn't burned. It kind of burnt out before it hit me, but it's a serious danger. So you've got to be prepared. Wear your PPE, safety glasses, always. Okay, now I've got my sleeves turned down and I'm going to be wiping off these dyes more frequently. Don't want the oil to build up. It's another chance that it could flash up on me. Now, unfortunately, these Anyangs just drip oil and there's not much you can do about it. So make sure you stay back, don't get your face too close to it, and just be careful. We're going to continue forging down this handle area. We're still drawing out the tool steel, and we're going to look to reduce this pretty significantly because this is tough steel, so we don't need this much mass. We can probably get it down to a 3/4 of an inch or even a 1/2 inch shank and use that kind of as a handle or a tang handle for us as we drift into new pieces. That'll leave us a lot of good material at the end. You can already see that material starting to become isolated that we can recover and turn into another tool. Efficient use of steel is another key element of being a blacksmith. If you just wanted a thing and you didn't care about how much material you used, you could just grind it out of any old shape that's larger. But when you're a blacksmith, it's all about moving the metal. That's what forging is. So you take a metal and you get the maximum use out of it. You get the least amount of loss. So that's what we're doing. We're maximizing the steel that we have to recover steel that's not necessary for this piece so it can be used for another tool. This is foundational blacksmithing at hand, trying to be efficient with this rare resource S7 tool steel that we've got. Now that the handle tang has been forged out, since this is S7 tool steel, we need to let it air cool. Unfortunately, that takes a long time, so this has been down here for a couple of hours cooling off. But now, it's finally cool to start working again. Here you can see the two pieces. So, we've got it forged down quite a bit, and we recovered a good amount of material, which we can use later. But there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done on this piece. The overall taper still looks great, but this transition really is not clean enough. It's pretty ugly. So we'll take that over the grinder and clean it up. And also this tang's a little tweaked, so we'll have to heat it back up and bend it into shape. Now back at the grinder, all I'm going to be doing is taking off the sharp corners. That's both at the top where we're going to be hammering or striking when we drive this drift, as well as all of those rough edges that transition from the drift itself to the handle. This will make the piece easier to handle and use. You don't have to worry about cutting yourself or nicking anything. And it'll also make it more aesthetically pleasing, which is always good. You want your tools to be something that's enjoyable to work with. I'm also going to use this opportunity to rip off some of that scale and ease the edges of that taper, since it's been in and out of the fire a couple of times. We're also going to pop the back end of this drift back into the fire to heat it up so that I can tweak it and straighten it up. It was a little off after the forging under the power hammer, so I'm going to take it over the anvil, hand hammer it, and clean it up. So we've got the handle cleaned up now. It's nice and straight, but it's still hot from being in the fire, and since this is S7 tool steel, we've got to leave it in the air to cool down naturally. There's no way to speed it up. We just have to wait. And here's the final drift. I already went ahead and put a coat of oil on it, which is giving it this nice dark blue color. It's looking great. You can tell straight away that the taper is now much more even along the entire length of the drift. This is going to really help with drifting hammers of all sizes. We also managed to clean up the shoulder transition between the drift and the handle, and it's looking a lot cleaner. No worries there. I'm really glad that I decided to do this improvement and draw out this handle, because it gave us all of this extra material. I mean, look at how much we cut off there. And the drift handle is still plenty strong. Now we're going to be able to take this recovered S7 tool steel and make something else with it. And hold on a second. Yeah, it's 2.5 inches, although tapered, so call it 2 1/4. And we're going to be able to use this to make a whole nother tool. And S7 is expensive, so that's great to be able to recover that material. Again, like I said, this handle is still plenty strong. At about 1/2 inch octagonal, I can still get my hand all the way around it, even with a glove, and have plenty of room to strike, and still have enough breathing room that I don't feel like I'm going to be touching up against the hot work piece. Overall, this improvement has been a great project, and I'm really happy with how it came together. I'm super glad that you guys decided to watch this video, and thank you for coming along on the project. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.